Welcome back. Let's continue with our lecture on general theory of relativity. Today we are going to cover principle of equivalence. We have two important principles when we go to general theory of relativity. One is principle of general covariance, which state that the laws of physics should be same or form invariant in any given coordinate system. That we have seen that by using tensors to express laws of physics, we can easily transform them from one coordinate system to another coordinate system. However, our standard differentiation, namely the partial differentiation, will not transform like a tensor, so we got to replace by a covariant differentiation, which would transform like a tensor from frame to frame. And then it looks like we are ready to express the laws of physics in the curved space-time. In this case, we can generalize some of the Newton's laws using this. So we have seen that the first law get replaced by force-free particle should be moving along geodesy. So before we go further into general theory of relativity, let's look at another important concept, principle of equivalence. The principle of equivalence is fairly important. It has basically started from the Galileo by showing the masses of different size, shape and material fall in a same way under the influence of gravity of Earth. This has been further extended by Einstein, what is known as Einstein's principle of equivalence. You can apply them on arbitrary frame of reference. Let's look at some of these more carefully in this lecture. Today's lecture is on principle of equivalence. This is a part of course PH 4205 at IISER Calcutta. We'll carefully go through the idea of principle of equivalence from Galileo to Einstein and carefully see how it is related to foundations of general theory of relativity. Now, among the principle of equivalence, the first thing comes is a Galilean principle of equivalence, because it is Galileo who is first to realize this and experimentally verify various aspects of this part of equivalence principle. Galileo played a very fundamental role in understanding physics way beyond his time. Some of them as formulated as Newton's laws of motion, especially first law of motion. Newton's first law of motion is literally named as a Galilean principle. So we'll look at the Galilean principle. It seems to have generated a great many excitement. Namely, we have been told that Galileo has conducted an experiment and standing on the top of Leaning Tower of Pisa, he has dropped balls of different material and showed that it falls in the same manner even if the size, shape and materials of balls are different. Now idea is very simple. We can apply Newton's laws of motion for a freely falling particle. The first thing comes is Newton's laws of motion. The force acting on a particle is proportional to acceleration, and the constant of proportionality is called the mass of the particle, or one may generally call it as a inertial mass, which couples between the force and the acceleration. If the laws of gravity very close to the surface of Earth can be written as a constant acceleration, and the freely falling particle would experience a force which is proportional to its mass and gravitational acceleration. In this case, the mass mg should be called gravitational mass, because it couples the two forces. It couples the mass of particle to the gravitational force. It's a coupling constant between the gravitational force and the particle itself. There is no apparent reason where these two constant or masses should be equal. The one which couples the force acting on the particle to the acceleration of the particle Second thing, a specific force called gravitational force acting on the particle. So these two coupling constant need not be same, because if we take a free fall of particle, these two forces should balance with each other, and we would eventually end up with equation of motion, which is MIA is equal to mgg. So Galileo made a very simple assumption that he assumed that these two masses are exactly same. So that is inertial mass and the gravitational masses are exactly same, and we get a simplification that the acceleration of a particle is equal to acceleration of gravity, and the mass or the coupling constant of the test particle completely goes away from equation of motion. That means a freely falling particle under the influence of gravitational acceleration does not depend on the mass or internal properties of the particle. So this is what need to be verified. It is based on an assumption or a postulate, which we call. It is a postulate very similar to the velocity of light being constant. In this case, the assumption is that the gravitational and inertial masses are same. So this itself was fairly well tested by Galileo himself, and this is where the Leaning Tower of Pisa comes into picture. Since angle or the leaning convenient to have a free fall, and that is where Galileo seems to have done this experiment. This is what historically we have been told. The Galileo climbed Leaning Tower of Pisa, which is a fairly tall tower. To climb, an old man like Galileo apparently suffered from a double hernia to climb all the way up and drop few things from the top. However, there is no reason to suspect Galileo's intention. Whether it is a historian has to tell us whether Galileo himself has climbed it all the way and did, or somebody else did. But it was a very appealing as an advocate of science. It leaves a great impression in the history of science itself, not just during at that time. That is why this experiment carries quite a significant impression in the history. While it is hard to believe that the Galileo has done this dropping things from the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and it is even hard to believe that this could actually give rise to a proper proof of this phenomena. The accuracy of clocks were not good enough, hand release also not reasonably good. So one finds that the error itself could be fairly large in such experiment. Of course, Galileo is scientifically tempered, and he would not be happy just telling something which is untrue. So he must have tested this fairly accurate, that is the acceleration of two masses irrespective of any other point. It is the same under the gravity. The free fall experiment, as it is stated in the history, may be too difficult to be carried out, or its precision could be too weak to be accepted to conclude that the inertial mass and gravitational masses are same. However, it has a different charm in the history of science. Galileo himself employed too powerful technique to verify these principle in his lab, we may call it. It includes the inclined plane and the simple pendulum. Using these two, you know that the effect of gravity can be slowed down, and you don't need to have a accurate clock. Pendulum underlying principle of most of the clock in the early years is invented by Galileo himself, so he could not possibly have used it to his experiment. At that time, popularly used clocks are either sand clocks or water clocks, which allows the water to or sand to drip down at the specific rate and estimate the time interval. Including the inclined plane and the pendulum would slow down the process of gravity, otherwise things would quickly fall under the gravity. So that is how Galileo himself has done the experiment. He took the inclined plane and drop the object of various type, and then experimented himself and figured it out that it is independent of all material, and what comes out to be a first principle of equivalence or Galilean principle of equivalence, that the acceleration due to gravity does not distinguishes the mass, amount of mass, or the type of material which is made up of. So this is a very important step ahead which has been showed by Galileo. So by this experiment we conclude that the force of gravity is truly unbiased. Now further more accurate experiments can be carried out using a simple pendulum. You might have done simple pendulum is a most accurate way of calculating the effect of gravity. You have a simple mass is suspended with the thread, and the gravity in the small scale is completely balanced by the tension in the string, and then you can have a simple harmonic motion around the reference point, and we know that the period of the pendulum of the simple harmonic oscillator is completely expressed in terms of the two parameter, that is the length of the string and the acceleration due to gravity, and it doesn't depend on the mass or content of mass. This essentially comes from the principle of equivalence, and the period can be measured. Since it is a repetitive process or a periodic process, one may average over a large number of cycles which results in the accuracy of the experiment. So this is the main result by which Galileo come to a conclusion that the material, whether you use this mass to be brass or gold or iron, whatever you use, the period is independent of this. Galileo has experimentally verified the postulates of equivalence principle, that all materials are equally attracted by the force of gravity. So that is why it is called the Galilean principle of equivalence. Important to note is that this has done before Newton himself, before even knowledge of how the gravity itself works. Inverse square law has been not known. However, Galileo himself knew that the force of gravity very close to the surface of Earth is proportional to the height from the ground, or the displacement from the ground. So he has fairly advanced his understanding, though he has not fully formulated the laws of gravity, which was done later by Newton. There have been several stories about how Galileo got this idea of a simple pendulum. Apparently he is in the church watching the swinging lamp with his heartbeat and all that things. Not truly sure how much of these stories are correct, how much of the stories are made up to make it a good attractive point. However, based on all these things, even though I am not a historian of science, I decided to do some research on myself. Of course, this would be illustrated here, how he got the idea of simple pendulum. Of course, he was always thinking about the dropping things from the leaning tower of Pisa, which he is not himself capable of climbing. I am assuming it is a fairly tall structure, and then he would have certainly got that idea that the simple pendulum is a way too easier and way too more accurate experiment. Of course, with this conclusion, it is a fairly straightforward how we would have got the idea of inclined plane, and we could see that the inclined planes are another way of improvising or slowing down the force of gravity, and the inclined planes are one of the third to slow down the acceleration due to gravity and reduce the speed of free fall. Einstein's equivalence principle. Okay, the next important or the significant development in the principle of equivalence comes from the Einstein's, or it may be called Einstein's principle of equivalence. Other than gravity, Einstein noticed there are few more forces whose influence on the test particle does not depend on its mass or its internal structure. They are very similar to the gravity itself, and their effect may be combined and producing the grander or unified theory. So it's not just the gravitation. Einstein noticed that even the inertial acceleration do not depend on the mass or the ingredient of the test particle. The inertial acceleration, which we mean that it appears while we do a non-inertial transformation. We have seen that the inertial transformation which preserves the Newton's laws of motion. When we do a transformation which is not inertial, that is if the frame is accelerated, for example accelerated along the straight line or rotating, then we see that there are additional terms appear in the Newton's laws of motion, which we call the inertial forces. Often you have been told that those are the pseudo forces, they are not real, they simply appear because of coordinate transformation. Of course, they appear because of coordinate transformation, because of Newton's laws are not invariant. But however, it cannot be said that they are not real. They do really exist, and that is what attracted Einstein. According to Einstein, you have a inertial frame such as say rotating frame. In this frame you have various inertial forces. Examples are centrifugal force and Coriolis force and so on. So when you have a two particle various size and shapes, no matter what, it's similar to Galileo's experiment. Now you stand on a rotating frame and then throw two objects of a dissimilar type, dissimilar shape, dissimilar content, and then you would see that their motion is essentially same. So this is what you can verify. Simplest example is the rotating frame. For a uniformly rotating frame, the centrifugal acceleration is simply given as a omega square r. Now it is mass doesn't come into this. It is just artifact of rotating frame. Only in the rotating frame you will observe it. However, in a non-rotating frame, it would be looked as some force acting on this particle to make it go in circle. Now, if you see that there is also gravitation present, then the gravitational force acting because of a distant mass, capital M, present at r is equal to 0 would give rise to an acceleration m by r square. Of course, m is a mass of the gravitating object, not the mass of the test particle. It's independent of mass of the test particle. And then this is a force of gravity acting on the particle. Now we can equate them. Again, they are does not depend on the content or the size or the shape or mass of the test particle. So you can look at the example from electrostatic. Electrostatic, the mass and charge, the ratio of them affect the equation of motion. You may take that the charge to be internal property of the material which affect the motion in principle. If you have a pure gravitational force or pure inertial frame, it should not be depend on the internal structure of the particle. Now we can equate these two. Acceleration under equilibrium case, you would have centrifugal acceleration omega square r must be equal to gravitational acceleration, which is m by r cube, leaving out the result that omega square is equal to m by r cube. So this result is what exactly we know as a Keplerian frequency or the Kepler third law of motion, which state that the period is proportional to the semi-major axis. Of course, this is a circular orbit, so you have only one axis, but in the case of elliptical motion, you can see that it depends on the semi-major axis. So we have easily derived the Kepler's law using balance between the centrifugal acceleration and gravitational acceleration. And this is a point which attracted Einstein, and he further developed this concept into full-fledged equivalence principle. Let's continue with the Einstein's equivalence principle, which essentially states that in a small region of space, it is not possible to distinguish between the acceleration of the frame and the gravity. Now let me explain this with the help of the set of figures. Einstein constantly used this thought experiment in which he would do various things. Doesn't really require to do real experiment, but it in principle conveys the idea. Let's take a thought experiment in which you have a rocket which is stationary or standing next to the leaning tower of Pisa. Our friend Galileo is tired of throwing things from the leaning tower, is put into this rocket and asked to do his business up there. So he would be happy to drop few things. On the other hand, we also have Einstein trying to catch these balls, and then we would take this entire setup into the space. There are two setups here. One is stationary on the earth. You have a gravity which is acting downwards next to the leaning tower, and if you release a ball, it would simply fall on Einstein's head. And that is what would happen in the gravity. Everything would simply fall down with the given acceleration. Now we take this rocket or make another setup in which the entire rocket is uniformly accelerated with an acceleration g in this direction. And then you have our friend Galileo dropping things from the top and Einstein waiting to see what is happening at the bottom. The acceleration of this rocket, which would imply that this ball would going towards the base of the space station or the rocket. Influence of, in this case, which is equivalent to ball falling freely under the gravity, both case the ball are accelerated to the base of space station where Einstein is standing. The Einstein's claim is that these two gentlemen inside this shell will not able to distinguish whether they are rest on the earth or moving with the constant acceleration d in the space. So this is what we call is a equivalence between the gravity and the acceleration of the frame. In small region, you will not be able to distinguish between the acceleration of the frame and the gravity itself. It is said that in a small region of space, gravity itself may be replaced by an uniform acceleration, and that is what we call is one of the statements of equivalence principle. Of course, this can be stated in a very different way. The same conclusion can be made with another set of experiment in which you have an earth which is having a acceleration due to gravity, or it is things are attracted towards it, and you have a rocket which is shut off and freely falling under the gravity, and then these two gentlemen are still playing around. They are ever so young, all the time want to play around, and then they will not be able to distinguish themselves if their spacecraft or their rocket is completely rest far away from any gravitating object in a complete inertial frame, what we call is a no acceleration or a complete inertial frame on the system. That means a freely falling frame in the gravity is equivalent to inertial frame with no force acting it on at all. That is called freely falling acceleration, and this is one of the very critical idea of a general theory of relativity. In this case, freely falling observer do not experience any force of gravity, and for him the frame is an inertial. So in the exact statement is that the freely falling observer under the influence of gravity, he would explicitly see the laws of physics as followed by the inertial frame, and that is what we call is a local inertial frame. We have seen that in the Riemannian space, you can locally construct a coordinate system in which all the Christoffel symbol can be made 0, and that frame is behaves like a inertial frame or local inertial frame. Exactly, that is called the freely falling inertial frame. Freely falling frame under the influence of gravity, where you have connection coefficient made explicitly 0, behaves exactly like a Minkowskian space, but it is true only locally. So this is one of the fundamental principle that even if you have a gravity, you can construct a small region of space-time in which the laws of physics are completely written in terms of the special theory of relativity or ordinary differential equation way we understand. When we want to do it on the global scale, consider the entire space-time, then we need to worry about the covariant differentiation, a curvature of space-time, and which we would do next. So this is a basic idea of equivalence principle by which you generalize rules of special theory of relativity to the curved space-time. I'll stop here, think over it very carefully, and then we will proceed with the mathematics of general theory of relativity, and then understand how to distinguish between an accelerated frame and frame which is under the influence of gravity. Locally it cannot be done, so we have to consider the global nature, or at least 2 points, and that we will see in the coming lecture.